Hey everybody, real quick before we dive into today's episode, I want to let you know that I'm doing a giveaway here on this podcast. So one of you can win a $50 Amazon gift card. What do you have to do to enter this giveaway? All you have to do is to leave me a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. And here's how you can do it. So open your phone, open the podcast app, go to my show, and there is a purple clickable link. You click on that, then scroll all the way down until you see ratings and reviews. And leave me a 5-star rating, leave me a review, and one of you will win that $50 Amazon gift card. I will announce the winner on the last episode in October. So good luck, and here is the show. Hey everybody, welcome back to the new episode of the Balanced Vibes podcast. I am Kirsten, and today I have another guest interview. So you may have noticed that I have been bringing you more guest interviews because I think they are very inspiring. It's one thing to hear things from me, and the other thing to hear from people who have worked through this process and can tell you more how it all looked like and what they accomplished, what were the difficult points, and so on. So today I am excited to talk to one of my former clients, Carolyn. Hello.
Hi,
Hey, how are you doing today?
I'm doing really well, Kirsten. How are you?
I'm really good too. We talked a couple of minutes before we got on and
Mm.
caught up, but I'm excited to hear more today on the podcast because I saved a lot. I didn't ask you everything that I want to know, so I'm gonna ask everything now.
Okay.
All right. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Let's see. My name's Carolyn. I am 49. I'm actually turning 50 in a couple weeks. Like big milestone, but it also hasn't quite hit me. I live in the Bay Area. That's where I met you several years ago. And I'm a mother of five. From ages 22 to 11. I call myself a recovering attorney because that's professionally what I did. But I've been mostly the last several years a stay at home parent and only recently returned into the workforce part time.
Yeah, 5 kids. This is so impressive. I like being a mom is one of the hardest jobs, if not the hardest job in the world. So I truly am,
Oh gosh, yeah, I know.
right.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us also a little bit more about your fitness background, your health and fitness journey?
Mhm. Let's see. I guess, I guess there was the typical things like high school, I had, PE. And then funnily enough, that's where I was introduced to weight training was in my PE class. I remember my PE teacher saying, I'm going to introduce you to the weight room and everybody has to learn how to do weights. And I was like, what? I'd never done anything like that. I was 14, 15 years old. And it was actually part of our PE requirement to graduate and then I learned enough and I just did it in PE just to get through it. And then college, I kind of did it on and off and then did some other exercise things, nothing really regular, like play tennis every now and then, or took an aerobics class. I mean, do you remember step aerobics? I remember taking step aerobics classes with some friends. And then in the 20s, that pretty much stayed that way. Like it was an on and off kind of inconsistent activity. A reminder every now and then I should probably go to the gym more often than I did. And to be honest, I never really thought as much about getting regularly into it because I'd always been a smaller person. And I think as a smaller person in this world, I had a lot of advantages of no one ever really commenting
Mhm.
about, gee, you should probably go to the gym or have you thought about. So that was something that I think I really took for granted. And then when I got pregnant with my oldest son, I realized I really got to take care of myself a little bit better. And it wasn't for weight, it was more just I, I have some aunts who weren't doing so well and at the time they were only in their 50s and they were like having health problems that were really lifestyle related. Like they had developed pre-diabetes, some of them had become diabetic, and then a realization that in my particular community, in the Filipino community, I had become aware how much diabetes and high blood pressure and high cholesterol were just, and still is, like pretty much just rampant. And it was concerning to me. I was like, gosh, what if I end up having those same problems, right? So really with my first pregnancy, I started really working out. Started with gentle, like just yoga, walks, nothing super intense at all. But it was really when I got pregnant with my fourth child and my energy started dipping a lot, because by the time I was pregnant with my fourth child, I had at that point 3 kids, 6 and under. I was
Wow.
was really physically depleted. And with breastfeeding, it made me even more depleted because of the calories that were required. And it was just a lot. So I had a friend who had recommended joining Ice Chamber Gym. She
Yeah.
was planning to go on a trip, and she had realized that as on this trip that she was really concerned that she would not be able to do all the walking that she would have to do. And that really struck me
Mhm.
because I thought she looked very capable.
Yeah.
She said, you know, I'm traveling to New Zealand and I honestly don't know if I can do all the walking that is required of me. And traveling to New Zealand was on her bucket list. She said, so I joined this gym, and she goes, come with me. I said, how can I go? I have all these babies. And she goes, come with me at 6 a.m. So I did the 6 a.m. class for
Mhm.
years
Uh-huh. Okay.
until my kids got old enough where I could do like the 9 a.m. And that's where you and I met. So at about age 33, 34, that's, I would say, when my fitness journey really took off and became a consistent and frankly integral part of my life, because I found a community of people who I didn't feel intimidated by, but they who pushed me to try different things and to do exercises that I never thought I could do. Because frankly, I'd never done a push-up in my life until I was 34. Really,
Mm-hmm.
I never had thought about it. And then when I first time I tried to do it, I was like, I'm never gonna be able to do a push-up. And within a year, definitely actually less than a year with consistency, like that felt really good. And so then that was, I really enjoyed doing weight training. And that was a lot of high intensity training. But then I got into the powerlifting when
Yes.
let's see, when Sarah and Chip, especially when Chip joined the gym and then you joined them. So I started doing the powerlifting and really, really enjoyed the powerlifting a lot, like a lot. Um, and then in between that time, I picked up some kettlebell lifting too. And I think Brittany was one of the first people. She taught me, her and Sarah taught me a bit about kettlebell lifting, the fundamentals. And then I've stuck with that like consistently, not necessarily competitive lifting styles, but just as integrated part. And then somewhere in between, like in my late 30s, early 40s, I decided to get more into yoga just to supplement my, just to get more agile, frankly. I was just feeling a little stiffer. And then got my official yoga teacher training in back in, trying to think, 2015, and have been and taught yoga for 4 years, right up until the pandemic started. And then when all the studios and the gyms closed, I just took my fitness indoors like many, many people.
Mm-hmm.
I've been pretty consistent since then. And during the pandemic, I picked up Olympic weightlifting.
Yes. That's
Yeah.
really
But that
great.
was after you and I started working
Yes.
together.
Okay. So we were around 33, 34 when you started the
Hmm.
classes. Then you
Yeah.
did those for what, 5, 6 years consistently?
Yeah.
Then you started
Consistently.
lifting, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Then got into the powerlifting.
Right. So that was like in your late 30s or early 40s, something.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm actually curious, did you notice the difference, how your body did or responded when you did the classes versus when you started powerlifting?
Oh, yeah. I mean, when I did the classes, and each of you, all of the instructors had a slightly different style
Sure.
too. Like Chip had a different style, and although you and Chip were very consistent in your styles, I think, and then versus I had a class with Steve or Sarah. Um, yeah. So at first, of course, when I started, like the weight was just coming off. And I didn't start those classes to lose the weight. It was really, truly about just getting what I felt like physically stronger and healthy to sustain. I was thinking long term, like really a sustaining. So that was a nice bonus, I guess, because as a mom of younger children, I guess afterwards I was like, oh, well, I was able to take the weight off, I guess, the extra weight off. But and I had more energy for sure. But when I started doing the power lifting and even the kettlebell lifting, that's when I started noticing more of a change in my musculature, like my body composition.
Mm.
Like my booty was getting bigger, my thighs were getting bigger. And frankly, it at first alarmed me. Well, I don't know if alarmed was right, but it surprised me. And I was wondering if I was gaining weight, like I was going in the reverse direction because I'd never consciously thought about that if I started lifting heavier, I would actually get bigger, like physically bigger in certain parts of my body.
Like with certain parts of your
At
body. Yeah.
certain parts of my body. That's, I
Oh,
guess, was the key. Certain parts of my body.
yeah.
Um, and and I remember thinking, gosh, I'm eating the same. It seemed like, I mean, it didn't seem like anything had changed. That was the only thing that had changed was the difference in the activity.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and yeah, that was, and then my arms. It was really like my shoulders and my back and my arms.
Really,
I
really.
also could tell I was a lot stronger.
Hmm.
I was a lot stronger
Yeah.
lifting
Yeah.
stuff.
They bring
Hmm.
up such a good point. I think it can be scary for a lot of women when they first notice that, wait, I'm taking like my thigh measurements and this is up, after
Hmm.
let's say 4 months of consistent lifting or three
Hmm.
shoulders, like I don't fit in my shirt anymore. Like, what's up with that? But actually,
Yes.
it's the muscle, and this is what we want for health benefits, and also that better, more like sculpted look that so many women are after. So we have to realize that your booty growing, your thighs growing, your shoulders growing. This is the right place. This is where
I
you have.
mean, frankly, I thought like, oh, I must be really gaining weight. It had no connection because I couldn't like fit some of my jeans. I was like, oh, they're so tight. But it's because I realized jeans never have enough space in for your butt.
Yes.
And so I was like, I can't even get stuff over my butt. And then when we started working and then we started doing, I know we're not there yet. When you and I started doing the muscle mass building together, even more so, it
Yeah.
was, I was
Yeah.
like, I was like, oh my gosh, I think I can only wear leggings for now. Or I was just wearing dresses or skirts, or
Mhm.
frankly, I just had to swallow the pill and just buy some bigger pants.
Right.
Which, yeah,
But you liked what you saw, right? You did.
I did because I was when you and I started working together, and then combined with Chip working with me on Olympic lifting and increasing my weights with powerlifting. Wow, huge
Hmm.
change, huge
Hmm.
change. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's jump into the part where we started working together. So
Mhm.
what got you interested in it, and why did you reach out? What kind of goals did you have?
So, I got interested in working with you because you and I had already been friends on social media, and then so I've been following you, just kind of like your journey, and then when you started doing the nutrition and then started posting like more formally, like as your business about nutrition and strength training, I became really, really interested because during the lockdown, we were indoors. I was still keeping up with working out 3 times a week because the gym was posting like online workouts that were live. So I could still do that. And even though I was doing that, I was gaining some weight and I wasn't convinced at all it was like muscle.
Right.
But
Yes.
I also think in the pandemic, like I was drinking more alcohol
Hmm.
and I was just cooking a lot more, frankly, because there wasn't a whole lot I could do. And we had my whole family, all 5 of my kids were here. My older son had moved back from college because his college had shut down. And so restaurants weren't open or anything. So I was cooking a lot for a lot of people. And because I love to cook, I also love to eat. And so I didn't think I was necessarily eating more, but I think it was the balance of things that I was eating, like,
Okay.
and then combined with a bit more alcohol consumption. Not problematic, but it was like, oh, we was like, oh, let's have a glass of wine. And whereas I'd probably have a glass of wine every couple weeks, like I had gone to like maybe 3 glasses of wine a week. And here
Mhm.
I am in my 40s, totally like, as I'd mentioned before, I think I'd always taken for granted I ran a little smaller. I mean, not just in my stature, I'm not tall, but like I just always had kind of a smaller physique in general. I started noticing that I was carrying more and in
Mhm.
places where um, I wasn't carrying as much like I used to. So I was carrying more in my belly. I was feeling stuff like in my back. I think when we
Mhm.
first started, I was telling you that I could just feel that I had extra on my back.
Yes.
And that I was even noticing that if I reached like just like this, it was just harder because I felt like I was carrying a lot in my torso more than I
Yes.
normally would. And I was puzzled because I was still working out,
Uh-huh.
3 times a week.
Mhm.
So when you started talking about like protein intake and macros, which I'd never heard like
Mhm.
the terms before,
Mhm.
I figured, well, what do I got to lose? I'm here at home. I have the time. And I know Kirsten, so that's when I reached out to you. And my goal really was to lose some of the extra weight.
Mhm.
To lose to some of the extra weight, but I was also really interested in understanding what macros were, like balancing of macros in a diet so that I could have more energy. Because that was the other thing. Even though I was working out 3 times a week and I was home, you'd think not working,
Mhm.
and I didn't have additional stressors of having to go out into the world to run errands per se. I was tired. I was
Mhm.
feeling more fatigued
Mhm.
and wasn't sleeping as well as I thought I should have been sleeping, given that I was sleeping like a full 8 hours, pretty undisturbed, but I don't think it was very quality sleep at all. And I still felt fatigued.
Mhm. Okay.
And so that was why I said, I mean, I really don't have anything to lose. Let me just reach out to Kirsten.
Yeah. Yeah. So also tell us, so what were the main nutritional changes that we then started implementing, and how did they make you feel?
The main nutritional, you made me, I think I first tracked, I think for a couple of weeks, just all my food. Like I
Mhm.
was supposed, I think I wrote down like everything I ate and I had to get the MyFitnessPal and I'd never tracked before.
Mhm.
So I told you, and for 2 weeks, I was so clear that I did not have enough protein intake. It was so, and then when you told me how much, I can't even remember what we started. I can't remember my first 2 weeks, like how much protein I had. I think aside from dairy,
Mhm.
I did have some meat, and
Yeah.
I thought I was eating enough meat, but clearly not enough, not enough meat. And meaning like chicken, beef, pork, or fish. And
Yeah.
I always thought I was,
Uh-huh.
but I think maybe I was barely hitting 80
Barely hitting
grams of protein.
you were under 100 grams of protein.
Yeah, I think like I kind of averaged like 80. My carbs were high,
Mhm.
which was not a problem for me. And then my fats were higher. I can't remember, but the thing that was striking was the protein. And so when you and I talked and you said we're going to start upping up your protein, that
Mhm.
was the biggest change for me because I was not used to incorporating that much protein in every single meal. And at
Mhm.
first I felt really full. Like I
Yeah.
think I told you, I was like, Kirsten, I'm having a hard time just
Mhm.
getting the food in. So I think my calories didn't change so much, but the balance of my macros
Yeah.
changed.
Yeah.
I had to
Exactly.
really get used to that.
Yeah. And I hear that a lot. People say that I'm so full, I can't just put more food in.
I know. I think I remember telling you, it's like, can we pull back? Because I don't think I could eat. And I also didn't know like what kinds of proteins I could eat and how to prepare them. Because I was like, do I have to? I think at first I was just eating like chicken breast, and I was getting really bored.
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
I was like, I don't know if I can eat that much chicken. Um,
Yeah, but then you learn more variety and you start using different sources of protein, and little by little you
Yes.
get closer to 1 gram of protein per 1 pound of your body weight, which is
Yes.
usually what I'm where I'm trying to get people to. And you're
Uh-huh.
right, like we actually we didn't reduce your calories at all at
I
first.
don't think we did. I
Yeah.
think we just reduced my macros or my carbs. Definitely, we did a big reduction in the fats,
Yes.
and then, but we really upped the protein,
Yeah.
and I remember that was significant. And even though we built it up like over time,
Yes. Yes.
yeah.
So, what did you start noticing as a result of making these tweaks, changes?
The biggest thing I started noticing was I was sleeping a lot better.
Awesome.
Like
That's
a lot better. And I remember being shocked by that because
yeah.
all things being the same, that was the lever. And I was sleeping really well.
Mm-hmm.
Like my quality of sleep was really good. So there was that. And the other one was yeah, well, the other thing was like my sugar cravings because I mean I love my desserts. I mean, you and I have talked about this. I love desserts. I like having a little bit of something sweet at the end of the meal. I wouldn't say I have a sweet tooth, but like I really enjoy like a nice dessert. But my cravings for that kind of went down too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In general, I noticed that when I up my protein, if I don't have enough protein, like if I have a day that's
Yeah.
crazy and hectic and I don't have as much protein, oh, okay, my sugar cravings really increase. I'm like, oh, I need
Uh-huh.
like some kind of,
Yeah.
like an eclair or something.
Right. Yeah. You really notice that your cravings and the hunger both go up, right? And you're like, what have
Yeah.
I been doing? Oh, I haven't been getting my protein.
And the other thing I noticed was the increase in my energy level.
Mm-hmm.
I did not have the ups and downs. Like I didn't have spikes, but really what was noticeable is I didn't have a crash.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have those very often, but I would have, like coming a midday slump or about two or three, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm an early riser, so about two or three. I have a little bit of a slump, but the slumps weren't as, oh, I'm
Mm-hmm.
dead. I'd have a
Yes.
little bit, but in general, my energy uh, really increased. Like I didn't feel like when I woke up that I was
Mm-hmm.
as groggy. I was able to wake up and be like, oh, I'm rested, I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I was just kind of felt more alert, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And the other thing that changed was because had recommended that I start including magnesium supplements, the magnesium glycinate, and I'm still using those, and that has also made a big difference. Was the magnesium?
Mm-hmm. Do you remember correctly that you also had like PMS related headaches before? Is that correct?
Yes,
And that
those
went
went
away.
away.
Yes. Yes. I
I
remember.
still get them occasionally,
Mm-hmm.
but not the same at all. And in general, actually, my PMS symptoms were became milder.
Yeah, this is
Mhm,
really common. And that's why
mhm,
when people, and we get there, we get to the body composition too, when
mhm.
I talk with you today. But this is just to show that how really balancing your food out and eating the right macros can not only impact your physique, but
Mhm,
also your overall health, right?
mhm.
Because all
Yeah.
the things you just mentioned have a lot to do with your health. Your sleep, your PMS, your cravings, your hunger, the headaches were gone. This becomes a health thing. It's not just
Yeah, and my moods.
yeah.
My moods were. I felt like I could manage like the stressors a lot easier. I felt like not like I didn't get rid of them, but
Mhm.
they weren't like this. It was a little bit more
No
like
peaks and
this.
valleys, but more like
Yeah,
uh-huh.
yeah. So
Yeah.
that was great. But physically, I guess when we first started, the definitely the fat started decreasing.
Yeah.
My measurements went down, and the most noticeable one was probably in my waist and in my upper back. Like this all started reducing. The fat that I had accumulated on my upper back had started going away, like slowly. It didn't just go away overnight. Because I remember, I think after our first 6 weeks, I was like, oh, the measurements, they're going down. And I'd never done measurements before. It's like, are they supposed to go down like faster? I don't know. Because I'd never done anything like this. I'd never done diets before.
Mhm.
I'd never done like body measurements. And so I remember it kind of stayed steady. And then maybe we were at 8 to 10 weeks in,
Mhm.
then it really kicked in.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. at some point, then it started going down. And then I was started to lift heavier
Mm-hmm.
and felt really good. And that's when I started doing Olympic lifting. I think
Mm-hmm.
when you're like starting to be 10, 12 weeks in, I started to learn to do Olympic weightlifting.
Mm-hmm.
And I think because I felt stronger and I was lifting, I started lifting more.
Right.
Yeah.
That's great. And also a great example of how things don't happen overnight. Like
Uh-huh.
one of the craziest things I hear is when people say, I'm getting like deep unmotivated or discouraged because I haven't seen a massive loss yet and it's been
Mhm.
6 weeks. And I'm over here like, hey, we gotta calm down, Because if you wanna get those results super fast, you could like jump on the treadmill, run for 2 hours, starve yourself, and trust me, you're gonna get weight loss.
Yeah.
But is that the type of weight loss you want? Or would you rather take slower approach, which ends up being faster, actually, right?
Uh-huh.
And you're going to maintain it and you're going to have the muscle definition that you're talking about, which just, we're not only like losing any weight. Because if you do take that cardio route because you're
Mhm.
so desperate you want to lose that weight, you're going to lose a lot of muscle too. And what
Mhm.
you are a really great example of is that you did walking, you walked a ton,
Oh,
and you,
that's the other thing you made me do.
yeah,
I
well,
tracked my steps for the
right?
first time.
Yeah.
I was walking. I was
Yeah.
walking more than 10,000 a day.
Yeah.
That's right.
Well, walking and lifting, and that's why you got this way more like sculpted look, and that's why
Mhm.
the fat loss started to happen, even though it didn't start like the day after we
Yeah,
started.
I think it was like week 8 or week 10, and it wasn't like dramatic. It was a little bit, and it was like certain parts of my body first
Mm-hmm.
that
Yeah.
started going.
Where?
It was like it was like my back, and
Mm-hmm.
then I didn't even hit my waist, I think, until much, much later.
Right.
But the funny thing is like, although I started losing weight, my body composition also changed. So like, we're doing the hip and the booty and the thighs. So even though I was losing definitely my upper back, my measurements in my booty and my thighs were either staying steady, but then they looked different too.
Exactly.
They
Yeah.
started looking different. And I noticed that when I would wear my pants or my workout clothes, or at one point, one of my kids goes, Mom, like, whoa, your booty is, one of my teachers, your booty is popping, Mom. And I was like, what? She goes, what? She says, look at your booty. And it
Nice.
was because my measurement in my butt and my thighs did not change, but they looked really different. And then
Yes.
when we eventually moved to the muscle mass, then the measurements there did get bigger, but that was because I was lifting way more
Mm-hmm.
at
Mm-hmm.
that point.
Oh,
And
this is
eating more and eating more. I was eating more. So,
yeah. I love this so much because like if we only focus on only the scale, whatever, just like one thing,
mhm,
then we may miss out on like all the positives that are happening, right? And you're saying
mhm,
that the shape of your thighs and the shape of your booty completely changed, although the
mhm.
measurements didn't, right? And this is
No.
a great example of how we had this nice exchange, like losing body fat and maintaining or possibly even gaining a little bit of muscle mass. And that's
Mhm,
actually what a lot of people want. Although not too many people know that they want it, they think that they only
mhm.
want weight loss, but what they want is exactly what you got.
Yeah. I actually think I was looking at my worksheet. I think in total I only ever lost 8 pounds ever. I think that was like the most I ever lost. And
Hmm.
then I went up a little bit again with muscle mass, but but it hasn't, yeah, there hasn't been a huge fluctuation in the weight, but my body composition has changed a lot.
Absolutely, that's so much more important than that.
Yeah.
So you actually kind of already talked about a little bit. So we started with your first goal. This was like to lose a little bit of body fat, the upper
Hmm.
mentioned the belly and all that. So
Hmm.
we did like a period that was like targeted for fat loss. But then later on, your goals changed a little bit, and you started to want something different. Which, by the way, is totally normal. People's goals change, and it's healthy to have different
Hmm.
goals. So where did you want to go then, and why?
Well, I felt so great about the changes I made in my nutrition, and I could tell I was getting a lot stronger. So I think I just felt more confident to try something different. And like I said, I started Olympic weightlifting, and I also had goals to increase. my deadlift and my squats. Um, and that was just a personal goal of mine because I just had this question. I was like, I wonder like what my max could be. Like, I'm curious, like if I do this consistently, and I had been doing it consistently with you, and the walking was frankly life changing because I didn't realize how few steps I was taking every day until you told me to monitor it. And then I got like a watch, like a legitimate watch that could monitor my steps. And I was really loving the walking, like
Yes.
so much, because just mentally it felt really good. It was time by myself.
Yeah.
And frankly, it was just really nice to be out, just out in nature and whatnot. So I really enjoyed the walking. So I said, well, I'm going to try something different. And you had mentioned, I think, in our conversations, but also in your social media stories about like if I wanted to build muscle, I was going to have to. You said to increase because you had talked about your own muscle mass, how you changed some of your diet. So I just figured I'd like to try that and was curious. And so I think we started at the beginning of the one of the New Year's. And at first it was just a lot because I had to eat a lot more food. I just
Are you grow?
I just had to eat a lot more food. And frankly, I did gain weight. And
Mhm.
I could see because when I look at pictures now, I could see that I was that I had gained weight.
Mhm.
Um, and I think I was a little concerned, to be perfectly honest. I was, there were a couple times during the process, during that muscle build phase, where I was thinking, is this worth it? Because like I feel like I look a little different, not really different, but like it looked like I was carrying a bit more weight on me because I was eating more, but I was also lifting more, meaning heavier.
Yeah.
And I had changed my work. I wasn't doing really any cardio besides just the walking, which included hiking. And I was doing 3 times a week, like some serious weightlifting.
Mhm.
And and my clothes were starting to feel tighter. And I was thinking, gosh, all this progress I made with Kirsten, like, I don't know, like maybe I made the wrong decision about this. But, I had some of my best PRs. And see, I think at one point I was, for me, because I'm only 5'1", but ended up deadlifting think during that muscle mass phase, my PR was like a deadlift of like 125, 130, it's somewhere around that range. I have it written down. And then I was squatting about as much, if not a little bit more than that.
Mhm.
And so I was waffling between like, oh, I'm gaining weight. And then also, and like, this is the heaviest I've ever been. Like,
Mhm.
even when I was pregnant. But when I
Mhm.
was pregnant, I wasn't doing weightlifting.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is like the biggest I've ever been, even compared to whenever I was pregnant. My clothes are feeling tighter. I can see it like in my face that, I was heavier. And so I did have those moments.
Mhm.
But then we started to reverse, like
Mhm.
I think going down to maintenance, if
Mhm.
I recall.
Mhm.
And then I could see like how much muscle I had put on, like especially my arms,
Right. Because then it's
which
time.
was interesting because I never thought of myself as having like arms that were
Muscular.
particularly great to look at. They were just there.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, I knew they were strong, but
Right. And
nobody
then
else.
then you saw it right then.
And
Boom.
then I saw it, and
Mhm.
even if I didn't see it, other people did. Like my
Mhm.
husband had noticed. He goes, "Whoa!" He said, "Look at your arms." He said, "Look at
Mhm.
your back."
Mhm.
And my back was something I can't see. I can't tell.
Mhm.
Um, but he started noticing things, and then I really noticed in my legs.
Mhm. Mhm.
And
Yeah. So this was a really brave decision, like as a
hmm
woman, because we know a bunch of like men, they always are like put on masks and
hmm
women are the complete opposite. They're like, don't you ever tell me that I'm gonna gain a gram because that's gonna be the end of the world, right? But you didn't have that. You're like, no, let's try this thing.
hmm
And you stayed the course. You knew that it's gonna be, building takes time, just like
hmm
losing takes time. And
hmm
you stayed with it, even though there were like moments where you were doubting it. But
hmm
the rewards, right? Like you're able to lift heavier. And another thing, you enjoyed more food. I mean, who wouldn't like more food? That's a good
Oh,
thing.
I know. Actually, I was so glad because I was you know, when you told me I could actually eat a full bagel with cream cheese because I was the muscle,
My
I was like,
goodness.
that's amazing.
Total freedom. Yeah.
But I mean, I say that like jokingly, but you were never the one who said you can't ever have bread.
No, that's not
You
my.
know, it was not, I mean, because we always talked about that. And I remember thinking, it's like, well, if Kirsten's one of those people who ends up telling me I have to cut out carbs or something like that, it's like, mate, this is not going to be the program for me because I really enjoy eating.
Yes, yes, totally. And then so after we that did that period of gaining, like putting on muscle mass intentionally,
Hmm.
yeah, we reduced back again, and then you saw
Hmm.
more muscle popping, and you
Hmm.
see the results of your hard work during that bulk. And now actually we didn't even have to go into like a huge calorie deficit for these results to get revealed because
No, but I
we
will say it was a
learned
little harder to go into the calorie deficit this
that.
time though,
Yes.
because
Yeah.
I was used to eating so much more. And I think the first 3 weeks I was telling you, I feel really hungry.
Uh-huh.
I was like, I
Like,
feel really hungry.
mhm.
So that was a little harder. I
Yeah.
will, it was harder than the first time you and I were started
Oh yeah.
working.
Yeah. Also because you had now faster metabolism because you had been lifting more and
Hmm.
both of which raise your metabolic rate. And now
Uh-huh.
when you cut down, your body it still like has this higher rate. And it's like, what are you doing? We need more food.
Yeah.
So you have to use some willpower.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
But I feel like I've been able to maintain it. Like
Yeah.
I have, I haven't tracked in a long time now.
Okay.
I can't, maybe I stopped tracking 3 months, maybe 2, 3 months after you and I like officially stopped working together, but it was just also very gradual. And I think because I had been tracking so like pretty religiously everything, like from how much butter I put in, like how much olive oil, all of that, that I had a pretty, by the time you and I concluded our formal work together, I had a pretty good sense of how much I could, how much protein I needed, like visually,
Mhm. Yeah.
and also listening to my body. If I didn't have enough protein, I could feel it that
Yeah.
either mid, by the end of the day. And I'd even mentioned to my husband, like, oh, I said, I don't think I had enough protein. I just don't feel right. Like, or I was like, I had too many like rich, heavy um carbs. And I said, and not like fruit. I said, but I think I had like the kind of carbs that were made probably not like the best carbs for me to fuel my body. Okay, so
Mhm.
maybe I had like chips because it was like a crazy day versus like, oh, a nice bowl of oatmeal or something like that, or like a really nice whole grain bread,
Mhm. Yeah.
for my carb. But I've never cut out the carbs ever. I've
Mhm.
never done that, but I am very conscientious about making sure I have some protein for all my snacks and my meals.
Mhm. Yeah.
And it's made a huge difference.
Right. It's like, I mean, we worked together for a very long time.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was close to a few years even. And
Yeah.
at that time, you got so much experience. And that's
Mm-hmm.
why now you have this intuition that tells you what you need and what you maybe don't need, or if you have made a better choice or worse choice. But
Mm-hmm.
I assume that we have this intuition without learning this stuff first.
Mm-hmm.
You had such a long learning period, and now you can just do it yourself without even having to put stuff on the food scale. And I'm sure that if you wanted to, if you had another goal, weight loss or weight gain, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
you have the tool now. You can take it out again, use it again. But for everyday life, you actually don't need to keep tracking because you already know a lot of things. And
Yeah, I have a pretty good sense. And you had asked me for like what were my big wins. And I had said, I wrote down here, I have a much clearer sense of what my body responds to best and
Mhm,
what it responds to not very well, like
mhm,
at all. And
yeah,
then just that my body composition was changed, that specifically like just the muscle gains, which is great. And also just and with that, like my self-confidence. I just feel so much more powerful, and I have like a greater belief in my capability, which seems like very vague and maybe like in wellness speak, but it's so true. Like
Mhm.
um I I feel really good about like my movements, and feel really confident that I can try a lot of different things and learn, and that I'm strong enough to do it. And that's really come home as you know, I think about other people in my life who are having quality of life issues that are really related to um, actually just kind of not just lack of movement, but uh, I mean, like my dad has an autoimmune condition, and I had mentioned, I don't know if I told you because we hadn't talked about, but he was recently diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, and everything that you and I had worked on, his physician, his neurologist had told him, and I was there. He said the best thing you could ever do for your life, for your longevity, not just longevity, but the quality of your life, is to strength train. He
Nice.
said we have to get muscle mass up. And
Mhm.
I was thinking, yes, that's exactly what Kirsten has said and what everybody else has said. But he had confirmed it and said, there's all these studies about how important it is to maintain muscle mass.
Mhm.
He said, and nobody really talks about it. He said, but he said, I tell my patients that's what you need to do.
Mhm.
That you
Mhm.
have to strength train. And I'm just glad that I got started like several years ago, but really took it to the next level in the last few years because it's a game changer.
Yeah, so glad to hear that. And I'm so glad that your dad has a good doctor who knows this stuff and encourages
Hmm.
stuff because, yes, resistance training can actually have very positive benefits, positive effects on our cognitive health. And that's what we're talking about, in
Hmm.
that's case too.
Yeah.
It can really, actually, there also have been studies showing that for like mild to moderate depression,
Hmm.
training is as effective as a lot of medicine. Plus, it has no
Hmm.
side effects. It has no negative side effects. Whereas with medicine, you never know. Like you never
Well,
know.
do you remember when I was doing the mass building? I think I had an annual physical, and
Mhm.
we had this conversation after I had my physical,
Uh-huh.
and my physician had said I needed to lose weight because she had looked at my trajectory of my weight,
Mhm.
and it had gone up in her mind significantly over the last 2 years. But you and I had been working together the last 2 years, and I had also changed my exercise, like the kinds of exercises that I was doing.
Right.
And she was very concerned because she kept emphasizing my BMI, that my
Mhm.
BMI was in the overweight, it was in the overweight range, and that she had seen the trend from the last 2 to 3 years. And so she was really concerned. And I said, and I had texted you, and I said, should it's I mean, I said, I know that I shouldn't be concerned about this comment, but it does bother me,
Right.
and I need a sanity check because I had told my doctor, in not in in polite terms, I said, well, but my blood pressure is really good, my cholesterol is really good, all of my the other markers are good. I said, I don't feel like I should be too concerned about my BMI, and it explained what the changes I had made. But she had accepted it, but she had also said, I still want you to take a look at your weight though. Like it's really, really important. And I did leave feeling a little like,
Mhm. Of
because
course.
I had felt I was doing really well, like in how I felt in my body. I
Yeah.
felt better than I had in my 20s.
Right.
For sure. I had a lot more stamina. And
Right.
then you and I met, I think like a few days later for our check-in.
Yeah.
You told
Yeah.
us like, oh, I said it felt kind of bad like afterwards.
First of all, your BMI was only slightly above that, what's considered normal.
Uh-huh.
Second, say that the BMI is so much harder on shorter people. It's just it does not work so well. It just does not. Third thing,
Says my tall friend.
right. And the third thing I will say is that I think I told you that too, that, hey, go ask your doctor to measure your fat mass versus your lean mass. And let's
Yeah.
talk again. Because I know that this shift had taken place. You had a
Uh-huh.
lot less fat, you had a lot more muscle. muscle is more dense, so you can be a smaller person with higher muscle mass.
Yeah.
It's true. So when you look at the picture of like 1 pound of fat and 1 pound of muscle, that 1 pound of muscle is a lot smaller. It less. Um, so I knew that you had put on a lot of muscle. So I was like, screw that. By the way, this conversation inspired a whole podcast episode. I don't know if you did listen or not, but
Oh, I did. I did.
left and right because I was pretty annoyed with this. I'm like, how can we only look at one number? And there you have all these other things, like I said, cholesterol, probably inflammation markers, whatever, everything's perfect. And yet we look at that one number. It's just,
I know. She just kept showing and you get this printout from the doctor's office too,
yeah,
that comes from whatever my chart or something. And that BMI number is like the one right at the top. It's like your weight and then the BMI number.
yeah.
It's huge. And then I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But I'm like,
Yeah. Well,
I didn't change anything, but I did remember feeling like, oh.
I know it can make it like,
I think I've been working so hard.
yeah, am I going in the wrong direction? Yes. Focusing on the scale is definitely not the only number, we should be focused on. It's just not true.
Yeah.
Yes, very cool. So I think we covered pretty much everything that I wanted to ask you. So is there anything that you would like to add yourself? Maybe something that I didn't ask, but you find it's important to add?
No, I don't think so. Let me see. No, I don't. I don't think there was anything, but I was so glad that you told me to walk more.
Okay, good.
Like lift more and lift heavier and walk more. I have like kept up with that walking and it's opened so many doors. It's been great.
Very cool.
Such an underrated activity.
Oh my God, it absolutely is. Yeah. Yeah. For our nervous system, very positive impact. And of course, the calorie burn that we get without like stressing the body, because with like high intensity training, running, you could put more stress on the body. That is good, but walking doesn't do that. That's nice. I have one last question. So what would you say to somebody who is kind of on the fence? Like they know that they need help, but at the same time, it's like their pride or something that's holding them back from reaching out and asking for help. So what would you say to somebody like this?
Gosh, I mean, if they want to reach out to you, like they're on the fence about reaching out to somebody who does the kind of macronutrition that you engage in, I would say try it. My thought is like there's nothing to lose but everything to gain. And like I said, I'd never been on a diet or engaged in any kind of program like this. So I didn't go in like wanting to lose weight because I had been a serial dieter like through my youth. It was more like I just wanted to figure out what can I change in my diet to give me all the energy. And I guess I would tell the person, try it. You really do have a lot to gain. You're a great coach, by the way. You're a wonderfully supportive coach. And that this change in nutrition isn't about loss. Like even if weight loss is the goal, it's not about loss in the general sense. It really is all about the gains, like emotionally and mentally, and the physical stuff is really bonus in my mind. But I try it really because it's just been wonderful to feel that I have more energy, that my life feels also like more, yeah, just a little fuller, a little fuller on the edges. Yeah. So I mean, I know that people are just like, well, I've spent all this money on like doing this or done lemon cleanses or, there's all these cleanses, those detox programs that for me have always been really puzzling, but, this is like an investment. I feel like I look at it as a long-term investment and it's one that's very sustainable.
Right.
That was always been my concern, that when you and I started working, I'm like, is this something I can keep up? I don't know.
But you have been able to.
Yeah, I've been able to keep it up.
Yeah. And it's been really, that's why I wanted to talk to you too, because you're not like in the middle of the program, just getting results fresh. You finished the program. You've been on your own for, I don't know how long now.
Now a
maybe.
year? Has it been a year since we stopped? Yeah.
So this is why you're such a great example of like, hey,
Hmm.
I'm maintaining everything, and it's still working. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It was so great to catch up with you. I miss
Yeah.
talking to you weekly or bi-weekly like we did, but
I know.
to
I
have
know,
you.
but we still DM every now and then, so.
All right. Thanks again, Carolyn. Have a wonderful weekend, and I talk to you again soon.
Okay, great. Thanks so much, Kirsten. You have a good one too.
Thank you.